The cold November dawn broke over Philadelphia's skyline as I stood on the 20th floor of what would become the city's newest medical complex. My breath fogged in the 30-degree air while I reviewed blueprints that fluttered in the wind coming off the Delaware River. 28 years in construction had taught me to read more than just architectural plans. I could read the city's bones, understand its growth patterns, predict where the next development would rise. What I couldn't read, apparently, were the signs in my own home. My phone buzzed. 5:47 a.m. Claire would still be asleep in our Society Hill townhouse, wrapped in those Egyptian cotton sheets she'd insisted cost what they did because of the thread count. Some number over 1,000 that supposedly made a difference. After 20 years of marriage, I'd learned to pick my battles and bed linens weren't worth the fight. "Boss, we got a problem with the Eastern support beam," called out Tommy Castellano, my foreman for the past 8 years. Built like a brick house, Tommy had worked his way up from carrying drywall to running entire sites. The specifications don't match what's actually here. I walked over, my work boots echoing on the metal flooring. Sure enough, the beam was off by 6 inches, enough to throw off the entire eastern wall. "Get Davidson on the phone," I told him. "Tell him we need revised plans by noon or we're stopping work. And document everything." That's what my life was. Solving problems, building things that would outlast me, making sure foundations were solid. Walker Construction Management had grown from just me and a pickup truck to 47 employees and $30 million in annual revenue. My name was on scaffolding across Philadelphia, from Society Hill renovations to North Broad developments. I'd built this company with calloused hands and stubborn determination, starting as an 18-year-old apprentice carpenter with nothing but a high school diploma and a willingness to work harder than anyone else. The morning sun painted the city gold as my crews arrived. These men, and 3 women who could outwork most of the guys, were my real family in many ways. We'd built half of Philadelphia's new skyline together, shared coffee from thermoses on frozen mornings like this one, celebrated when contracts came through, mourned when we lost bids. "Steve, you see the Inquirer this morning?" asked Marcus Williams, my senior foreman, as he climbed up to the 20th floor. "That Preston Financial Advisory's throwing another $1 million at the Children's Hospital Gala. Must be nice to have that kind of money to toss around." Preston Financial. Just hearing the name made my jaw tighten slightly. Claire had been working there for 12 years now, climbing from analyst to senior vice president. Her boss, William Preston III, represented everything I wasn't. 4th-generation money, Penn undergraduate, Wharton MBA, the kind of guy whose great-grandfather's name was on buildings I renovated. "Must be nice," I agreed, though the words tasted bitter. The truth was, Claire's job at Preston Financial had changed our marriage in ways I was only beginning to understand. When we met 22 years ago at a Villanova MBA mixer, I was presenting on construction economics as a guest speaker. She'd been this bright, ambitious woman who didn't care that I drove a used pickup and had cement under my fingernails. She'd grown up in Boston, daughter of 2 professors, but she'd chosen me, the contractor from South Philadelphia whose idea of fine dining was the sandwich shop on Passyunk Avenue. Our wedding at the Union League had been the first sign of the divide. Her parents, both academics who spoke in paragraphs and looked at me like I was an interesting sociology experiment, had barely hidden their disappointment. My family, loud, Italian-Irish, filling 3 tables with cousins alone, had tried to make up for it with enthusiasm. Claire had laughed it off then, said she loved how real my family was. When did real become something she wanted to escape? "Dad's going to be late again," Matthew had said the night before, not looking up from his calculus homework. At 16, our son had developed a resignation about family dinners that broke my heart. He played lacrosse at St. Joseph's Prep, built like me but with his mother's sharp intelligence. "Big presentation tomorrow," Claire had explained, breezing through the kitchen in her Armani suit, grabbing a protein shake from the fridge. "William needs the quarterly reviews perfect for the board meeting." William. Always William. For the past 2 years, ever since he'd taken her under his wing, as she put it, William Preston had been a constant presence in our lives. Late nights, preparing for board meetings, weekend strategy sessions. That incident last year at the conference in New York when she said a client had gotten inappropriate with her, and William had stepped in, protective and professional. He even rearranged the office so I'd be closer to his suite, Claire had told me afterward. For safety. He takes care of his people. I'd been grateful then, genuinely grateful that someone was looking out for my wife in that world of high finance I'd never understand. The irony of that gratitude would later taste like ash in my mouth. By noon, the beam problem was solved. Davidson's architect admitted the error, sent revised plans, and we were back on schedule. I sat in my construction trailer eating a hoagie from Tony Luke's when my phone rang. "Stevie, I need a favor." My brother Tony only used my childhood nickname when he wanted something. He ran a plumbing supply company, did well for himself, but was always looking for the angle that would put him in the big leagues. "What now, Tony?" "You know the Children's Hospital Gala this weekend?" "Claire's going." "I'm not. Thank God I didn't add." Here's the thing. Robert Fitzgerald's got an extra seat at his table. His construction consultant just canceled. Some emergency surgery. Fitzgerald needs someone who actually knows the industry because he wants to discuss this massive airport expansion project. Robert Fitzgerald was the kind of developer who could make or break companies like mine. His projects ran into the hundreds of millions. One contract from him could set up Walker Construction for the next 5 years. "Tony, Claire's going to be there with her Preston financial people." Different table, opposite side of the ballroom. The place holds over 1,000 people. You probably won't even see each other. "Come on, Stevie. This could be huge for both of us. He uses my plumbing supplies, you get the construction contract. We both win." I hesitated, looking out the trailer window at my crews working. These men depended on me to keep contracts coming, to keep them employed. Let me think about it. Think fast. The gala's in 5 days. That night, Claire came home at 11:30. I was already in bed, reading specification documents for next week's project. She slipped in quietly, probably thinking I was asleep. "How was your day?" I asked. She startled slightly. "Oh, you're awake." It was intense. The Goldman presentation is next week, and William is obsessing over every detail. She went into the bathroom to change, talking through the door. You know how he is, perfectionist to the extreme. I didn't know how he was, actually. I'd met William Preston exactly 3 times at company events. Silver-haired at 58, marathon runner, collector of modern art. His wife, Margaret, came from even older money, the kind of woman who used summer as a verb. They had houses in the Hamptons and Palm Beach. Claire had shown me pictures from company parties. William always at the center, commanding the room like he commanded everything else. "You smell different," I said when she came back to bed. "New perfume?" "Oh, we had dinner with clients at Vetri. You know how those places are. The smell clings to everything." She turned away, pulling the covers up. "I'm exhausted, honey. Can we talk tomorrow?" We didn't talk tomorrow, or the next day. Claire was gone before I woke, home after I was asleep. The pattern of our lives had become 2 trains running on parallel tracks, occasionally stopping at the same station but never really connecting. 3 days before the gala, I made my decision. Called Tony, told him I'd take Fitzgerald's extra seat. "You're not telling Claire?" Marie, Tony's wife, asked when I stopped by their house to go over the plan. She had that look Italian wives perfect, concern mixed with the certainty that men are idiots. She specifically told me not to come this year. Said she'd be working the whole night, schmoozing clients, that I'd be bored out of my mind. This way, she can focus on her work. I can land us a major contract. Everyone's happy. "Stephen Walker, you've been married 20 years. You really think surprising your wife is a good idea?" "I'm not surprising her. I'm just going to be in the same building, at a different event, for business. Marie shook her head but said nothing more. That should have been my first warning. The morning of November 15th arrived gray and bitter cold. Claire was up at 5, in the shower by 5:15, and standing in our bedroom in her slip by 5:30, staring at the black Versace dress hanging on the closet door. $3,000 for a dress you'll wear once, I'd said when she brought it home. It's an investment in my career, she'd replied. The clients at these events expect a certain level of presentation. I can't show up looking like I shop at Nordstrom Rack. Now she held it up against herself, examining her reflection critically. Do you think I look old? You look beautiful, I said automatically, though it was true. At 43, Claire had maintained herself with Pilates and careful eating. The kind of maintenance that women in her world considered as essential as breathing. You have to say that. You're my husband. For 20 years. I think I'd know by now if you weren't beautiful. She gave me a small smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. You're sweet. Anyway, you're still okay skipping tonight? I know I keep asking, but… Claire, I hate those things. I'll watch the game with Tony, probably be asleep by 10. You go, dazzle the clients, make William proud. Something flickered across her face at William's name. He's counting on me to manage the Goldman relationship. They're considering moving their entire portfolio to us. It would be huge. Then go be huge, I said, getting out of bed to kiss her forehead. I'll hold down the fort here. She left at 6 that evening, garment bag in one hand, shoes in the other. Her kiss was distracted, perfunctory. The kind of kiss you give a roommate, not a husband. I watched her silver Lexus pull away from our townhouse, then got ready myself. Tony and Marie lived in South Philadelphia, not far from where we'd grown up. Their row house was narrow but warm, filled with the sounds of their 3 kids arguing over video games. Marie fixed my bow tie while Tony poured us each a shot of whiskey. For courage, he said. It's a business meeting, not a battle. In this city, what's the difference? The Philadelphia Convention Center glowed against the night sky like a massive jewel. Valet attendants scrambled to handle the parade of luxury cars, Mercedes, BMWs, the occasional Bentley or Maserati. I handed over the keys to my F-150 without embarrassment. It was paid for, it was reliable, and it had hauled more valuable loads than most of these cars ever would. The cocktail hour was already in full swing when I entered. The space had been transformed into what Claire would call understated elegance. Thousands of white roses, crystal chandeliers, ambient lighting that made everyone look 10 years younger and 10 times wealthier. I found Robert Fitzgerald easily. He was the tallest man in any room at 6'4", silver-haired, with the kind of presence that made people orbit around him. Walker, glad you could make it. His handshake could crack walnuts. Gentlemen, this is Stephen Walker. If you're building anything in this city, you want his crews on it. The next hour was a blur of handshakes and business cards. Fitzgerald's vision for the airport expansion was ambitious. A new international terminal, complete renovation of 2 existing terminals, infrastructure improvements that would run into the billions. He needed someone who understood both union negotiations and city politics. That was my wheelhouse. The unions respect you, Fitzgerald said, handing me another scotch. That's worth its weight in gold in this city. My father was a union carpenter. His father, too. You don't forget where you come from. See, that's what I like about you, Walker. You're authentic. No pretense, no bull. In this room full of people pretending to be richer than they are, you're comfortable being exactly who you are. If only he knew how uncomfortable I was. Standing there in my rented tuxedo while somewhere in this massive space, my wife was probably charming clients in her $3,000 dress. The dinner announcement chimed. a silver bell that somehow cut through the din of 1,000 conversations. The ballroom doors opened onto a space that took my breath away. They'd transformed the convention center into something from a movie. 50-foot ceilings draped in white silk, tables set with enough crystal and silver to stock a department store, centerpieces that must have cost more than my first truck. I found table 47 easily, on the opposite side of the ballroom from table 8, where the Preston financial contingent would sit. Perfect positioning. I could avoid Claire entirely, focus on business, get through the night without drama. That plan lasted exactly until everyone was seated. From my chair, I had a direct sightline across the ballroom to table 8. The Versace dress was unmistakable, even from this distance. Claire sat between William Preston and someone I recognized as Preston's CFO. But it was the body language that made my stomach clench. The way she leaned toward William when he spoke, how her hand rested on the table near his, the intimate tilt of her head when she laughed at something he said. Stop it, I told myself. They work together. This is normal colleague interaction. But I'd been reading structures for nearly 3 decades. I knew when something was load-bearing and when it was facade. And what I was seeing across that ballroom was definitely load-bearing. The salad course arrived, some architectural thing involving compressed beets, goat cheese foam, and microgreens that looked like someone had raided a lawnmower bag. Fitzgerald was explaining something about zoning variances, but I was watching William Preston's hand disappear below the table line. Watching Claire's sudden stillness, her subtle shift closer to him. Watching the hand reappear to reach for his wine glass. My throat closed. The kind of primitive warning system that had kept me safe on construction sites for 3 decades was screaming now. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. You all right, Walker? Fitzgerald asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just thinking through your timeline, I lied. Excuse me for a moment. Important call. I stepped out to the lobby, pulled out my phone, and called the one person who would tell me the truth. Jessica, it's Dad. Hey, aren't you watching the game with Uncle Tony? My daughter was at Georgetown freshman year, studying international relations. Brilliant like her mother, but with my stubbornness. Quick question, sweetheart. Has Mom mentioned working a lot with her boss lately? Mr. Preston? Oh my God, constantly. It's actually kind of weird. Like, every time I call, she's either about to meet with him or just left a meeting with him. Why? Just wondering. She seems stressed lately. Dad? Jessica's voice took on that tone she'd perfected at age 12, the one that said she saw through parental deflection. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, honey. Get back to your studying. It's Friday night. I'm not studying. Then get back to whatever responsible thing you're definitely doing that doesn't involve red Solo cups. She laughed. Love you, Dad. Love you too. I went back inside, but instead of returning to table 47, I positioned myself where I could observe table 8 without being seen. What I witnessed over the next 20 minutes confirmed every instinct screaming in my head. William's hand on Claire's back as he leaned over to speak to someone across the table. The hand lingered, traced a small circle. Claire's finger running along the stem of her wine glass while maintaining eye contact with him. I'd seen that gesture before, years ago, when she was flirting with me. The way they navigated around each other with practiced ease, like dance partners who knew every step. The main course arrived. Filet mignon that might as well have been cardboard for all I could taste it. I returned to my table, mechanically participating in conversation while my world tilted off its axis. Fitzgerald was outlining Phase 1 of the airport project, but the words were just noise. Then Claire stood, excusing herself from the table. She moved through the ballroom with the grace she'd learned at cotillion classes her Boston parents had insisted on, heading toward what I assumed were the restrooms. William Preston waited exactly 3 minutes. I watched him check his Rolex twice, then followed. Every instinct told me not to follow them. Nothing good could come from what I might see, but I'd spent my life making sure foundations were solid, and I needed to know if mine was cracking. "Excuse me," I told the table. "Need to make a call." I maintained a casual pace, keeping William in sight as he turned not toward the restrooms but toward a service corridor marked Staff Only. My dress shoes were silent on the thick carpet. I reached the corner just as William pressed Claire against the wall, his hand tangled in her professionally styled hair. Their kiss desperate and practiced, and definitely not their first. The world stopped. All sound disappeared except for the rushing in my ears, like standing under a waterfall. I stepped back before they could see me, my mind cataloging details with the same precision I used for structural assessments. Her lipstick smeared, his hand on her hip possessively, the way she melted into him like she hadn't melted into me in years. I don't remember walking back to table 47. Suddenly I was just there, Fitzgerald asking if everything was all right, my voice saying something about a client emergency that got resolved. Claire returned to table 8 first, lipstick perfect again, not a hair out of place. William followed 5 minutes later, adjusting his cufflinks with the satisfied air of a man who'd just closed a big deal. They sat at their table, carefully not looking at each other, and I finally understood. Every late night at the office, every weekend strategy session, every closed-door phone call about client confidentiality. The conference in New York where a client had supposedly gotten inappropriate, had that even happened? Or was it cover for something else entirely? My phone became my weapon. Angling it carefully, I documented everything. William's hand disappearing below the table line again. Claire's reaction, subtle but visible if you knew where to look. The way she touched her earring when he whispered something to her. That gesture she'd always made when she was aroused. I had 20 years of marriage manual to know what every gesture meant. The auctioneer took the stage. Some British accented expert from Christie's who made every item sound like the Mona Lisa. The hospital needed funding for a new cardiac wing. Items ranged from vacation homes in the Hamptons to signed memorabilia from every Philadelphia sports team. That's when the plan formed. Not hot revenge, but cold calculation. The kind of planning that had built my business from nothing. Claire thought I was too simple to notice, too blue-collar to understand the sophisticated games being played. She was about to learn what happened when you underestimated someone who'd spent his life calculating loads and identifying structural weaknesses. Lot number 47, the auctioneer announced with theatrical flair. Dinner for 20 at Le Bernardin in New York. We'll open bidding at $5,000. I watched William lean toward Claire, whispering. She nodded, encouraging, her hand briefly touching his arm. He raised his paddle. $5,000 from Mr. Preston, the auctioneer announced. $7,000, called someone from table 12. William again. $10,000. I raised my paddle. $20,000. The room turned. Heads swiveled to see who was bidding so aggressively. Claire found me across the room, her face draining of color like someone had pulled a drain plug. $20,000 from the gentleman at table 47. Do I hear 25? William's paddle shot up, his face flushed. 25,000. 40,000, I called out, my voice carrying the authority of construction sites, of men and machinery and tons of concrete. Whispers rippled through the ballroom like waves. Claire stood partially, then sat back down as William grabbed her wrist. They were having a heated whispered exchange, her trying to stop him with his pride fully engaged now. 40,000 going once. The auctioneer was practically dancing with delight. 50,000, William barked out. 75,000. Gasps echoed through the space. The auctioneer looked like he'd won his own lottery. $75,000 for dinner at Le Bernardin. Sir, that's extraordinarily generous. I smiled across the room at Claire. The same smile I'd given her at our wedding, the smile that said I knew exactly what I was doing. Going once, Going twice. William's face had turned the color of expensive Cabernet. His need to win, to not be shown up by someone like me, overwhelmed whatever sense he had left. $100,000. I let the moment hang, watching Claire physically trying to restrain William from bidding further. Then I lowered my paddle, conceding. The room erupted in applause. The auctioneer was beside himself. Ladies and gentlemen, $100,000 from Mr. William Preston. Sir, that incredible generosity deserves recognition. Would you please say a few words? The spotlight found William as a microphone appeared. He stood, pulling Claire up with him, though she tried to remain seated. Preston Financial has always been committed to Philadelphia's children, William began, his politician's voice smooth despite his flushed face. We believe in investing in our community's future. I stood up. I'd like to match that donation. Every head in the ballroom turned. The auctioneer stopped mid-gesture. Sir, you're matching the 100,000? I walked toward the center of the room with the steady gait that had carried me through 30 years of construction sites. Yes, but I'd like it in Claire Walker's name. My wife. I pointed to where she stood frozen beside William. She's always been very generous with her time, especially with Mr. Preston. The silence was absolute. 1,200 of Philadelphia's elite holding their breath. In fact, I continued, now holding the microphone the auctioneer had offered me, Claire's been so generous with William that she insisted I skip tonight's event altogether. Didn't want me to see her holding hands under the table, or taking walks to the service corridor together. The gasps came in waves. Phones appeared, recording. Claire's, "Stephen, please," was lost in the growing murmur. But since we're being generous, I said, pulling out my phone and connecting it to the nearest display screen, Fitzgerald's tech-savvy son had shown me how earlier while explaining the AV setup. Let me share some highlights from tonight. The first photo appeared on the massive screens around the ballroom. William's hand clearly under the table, Claire leaning into him. The next, them returning separately to the table, Claire's lipstick noticeably refreshed. Then the video, grainy but unmistakable. The kiss in the service corridor, desperate and definitely not professional. Stephen, stop! Claire's scream cut through everything. Why? I asked, my voice carrying 30 years of construction sites, of authority earned not inherited. You didn't stop. Not in the corridor. Not at your table. Not for however long this has been going on. A year? 2? Since that conference in New York when you said a client harassed you? Was there even a client, Claire? Or was that just cover for starting your affair? William stepped forward, his mainline breeding making him forget we had an audience of 1,200. You don't understand the complexities of our relationship. I understand perfectly. You're sleeping with my wife. You're destroying a 20-year marriage. You're breaking up a family with 2 children. What's complex about that? That's when the voice came from the ballroom entrance. William, you son of a... Margaret Preston stood in the doorway, elegant in Saint Laurent, her Palm Beach tan not hiding her rage. She grabbed a champagne flute from the nearest table and threw it with remarkable accuracy. William ducked, but not fast enough. The champagne soaked his tuxedo shirt while the glass shattered on the floor behind him. The ballroom exploded into chaos. Preston Financial board members huddled in emergency conference. Clients filmed everything on their phones. The hospital development director tried futilely to restore order. Claire ran for the exit, her $3,000 Versace dress catching on a chair, tearing audibly up the side. I stood calm in the hurricane I'd created. The 100,000 stands, I announced, handing the microphone back to the stunned auctioneer. In Claire's name. She'll need it for her divorce lawyer. I walked toward the exit, stopping at the Preston Financial table where 6 employees sat in shocked silence. You might want to update your resumes, I told them. When the CEO goes down for sleeping with a subordinate, the whole firm tends to follow. Check the moral turpitude clauses in your contracts. Also, the SEC tends to investigate whether personal relationships affected fiduciary decisions. Just something to think about. The night air hit like absolution. Tony waited by my truck, having watched everything from the doorway. Jesus Christ, Stevie! You just... you demolished them. Sometimes you have to tear down to the foundation before you can rebuild. Robert Fitzgerald caught up as I reached my truck. Walker, that was... I don't even have words. Still interested in the airport project? He laughed, sharp and surprised. Anyone who can plan and execute something that complex? You could build me a spaceship. Call me Monday. The drive home was quiet except for my phone, exploding with calls. Claire, unknown numbers, reporters already, my lawyer Jim. I only answered when Jessica called. Dad, what happened? It's all over Instagram. Someone live-streamed the whole thing. Mom was she really? Your mother's been having an affair with her boss. I found out tonight. Silence then. Oh my God. Is that why she's been so different? So distant? Probably, sweetheart. I'm coming home tomorrow. You have classes. Dad, I'm coming home. Matthew needs me. You need me. Okay, drive safe. Are you okay? I will be. The house sat dark except for the porch light. Bailey greeted me like I'd been gone for years, his German Shepherd intuition sensing something wrong. I changed out of the tuxedo, hanging it carefully. Evidence or habit, I wasn't sure. Then I did what needed doing. Moved Claire's things to the guest room. Not thrown out, not destroyed. We had children who didn't need more drama. But our bedroom, the bed we'd shared for 20 years, that was mine now. I placed our wedding photos face down, not destroyed, just neutralized. Then I sat in the kitchen with a glass of Jameson, Bailey's head on my knee, thinking about load-bearing walls and critical support structures and how sometimes the damage was too extensive to repair. She arrived at 1:47 a.m. I know because I was watching the clock, wondering how long it would take her to find a way home after fleeing the gala. How dare you? She stormed in, mascara streaking her face like war paint. You destroyed me? My career? Everything. I revealed you. There's a difference. You had no right. No right? I stood, my calm more threatening than any shout. 20 years of marriage gives me no right. 2 children? Building a life together? Working 60-hour weeks so you could get your MBA? So you could take unpaid internships? So you could climb that Preston financial ladder? You never understood my ambitions. William sees my potential. William sees an attractive woman who's willing to betray her family for a corner office. You're not special, Claire. You're just the latest. Talk to his previous assistants. There's a pattern. She slapped me. I let her. The sting felt like punctuation to our marriage. Get out, she hissed. This is my house. My father's down payment, remember? The deed's in my name because your credit was shot from student loans when we married. You can sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you find somewhere else. You can't just... I can. I will. And Claire? That video's already viral. By morning, every financial firm in Philadelphia will know exactly who you are and what you did. Good luck with those ambitions. Matthew appeared on the stairs, 16 years old, and forced to pick a side in a war he didn't start. Mom? His voice cracked. Still a kid, despite his lacrosse player build. Is it true? You and that old guy? Mom, is it true what Dad's saying? Claire's face crumbled. Matthew, it's complicated. It's not complicated. You cheated on Dad. You cheated on all of us. He came down the stairs, stood beside me. That's actually pretty simple. She reached for him. He stepped back. I'm staying with Dad, he said. I can't even look at you right now. Claire looked between us, her husband and son united against her, and something finally broke. She ran to the guest room, slamming the door. We could hear her sobbing through the walls, but neither of us moved to comfort her. "You okay?" I asked Matthew. "Are you?" "I will be." "Dad, how long has it been going on?" "I don't know. Maybe a year, maybe two. Maybe since that conference in New York when she said a client harassed her." "That was 18 months ago." "Yeah." We sat in the kitchen, father and son, not talking because sometimes men don't need words. The sound of Claire's crying eventually stopped. Matthew went to bed around 3. I stayed up watching the city lights through our kitchen window, thinking about everything I'd built and what would need to be torn down. By morning, the story was everywhere. The Sunday Inquirer's business section led with Preston Financial CEO caught in scandal at charity gala. The video had gone viral. Construction King destroys finance royalty was trending on Twitter, then Facebook, then every social media platform. My phone had 247 missed calls and over 400 emails. Jim Morrison, my lawyer and poker buddy since high school, called at 7 a.m. "Steve, I've already filed the paperwork. Emergency injunction to freeze joint assets. She can't clean out the accounts." "Thanks, Jim." The video helps. Adultery still grounds in Pennsylvania. She'll get minimal alimony, if any. The house is yours. Inheritance down payment. Deed in your name. The business is protected. Predates the marriage. What about the kids? Jessica's 18, she can choose. Matthew's old enough that courts will consider his preference. Based on what I'm seeing online, they're both team dad. Steve, this is going viral in legal circles too. That was some strategic planning. 20 years of marriage, Jim? 20 years. I know, buddy. I know. Claire emerged from the guest room at 9, looking like she'd aged 5 years overnight. No makeup, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes from yesterday minus the ruined Versace. "We need to talk," she said. "Through lawyers." "Stephen, please." 20 years. That you threw away for what? A corner office? A fancier business card? A boss with a trust fund? It wasn't like that. William understood me. William understood you were attractive and available. He's done this before, Claire. You're not special. You're just the latest. Sharon from accounting, the one who left suddenly 2 years ago, ask her about William. Rebecca from wealth management who transferred to the New York office. Ask her too. That hit. I saw it land, the realization that she'd destroyed her life for a man who collected affairs like cufflinks. I want to see the children. They don't want to see you. Jessica's driving down from Georgetown. She said, and I quote, "I don't want to talk to that woman right now." That woman? I'm her mother. You were. Now you're the woman who broke up our family for her boss. Actions have consequences, Claire. You taught them that. Remember all those lectures about integrity and making good choices? This is my home, too. Not anymore. Pack what you need for a week. Jim will arrange for you to get the rest with supervision. Supervision? I'm not a criminal. No, you're just someone who betrayed every trust she'd been given. I don't trust you not to destroy things out of spite. She left an hour later with 2 suitcases and a banker's box of immediate necessities. I watched from the window as she loaded her Lexus, neighbors pretending not to stare. Mrs. Patterson from across the street actually applauded when Claire drove away. Mrs. Smith from 2 doors down brought over a casserole an hour later, patting my hand and muttering something about "that woman" in Mandarin. Jessica arrived that afternoon, her Georgetown sweatshirt and leggings a stark contrast to her usual put-together appearance. She hugged me hard, then pulled back to look at my face. "Dad, are you okay?" "Really okay? I'm processing. That video. God, Dad, you destroyed them. It's everywhere. My roommate's mom in Boston saw it. It's not just Philadelphia anymore. It's national. Someone put it on Reddit and it has like 1 million views. I didn't mean for it to go that wide. Mom made her choices in public. You just made sure everyone saw them. Matthew came downstairs, hair sticking up, still in yesterday's clothes. Is she gone? Yeah. Good. He grabbed orange juice from the fridge, drinking straight from the carton, something Claire would have lectured him about. My phone's blowing up. Everyone at school saw it. Connor's mom is a partner at some firm that works with Preston Financial. She says they're dropping them as soon as markets open Monday. Monday brought the full avalanche. Preston Financial's board held an emergency meeting at 6 a.m. By noon, William Preston was unemployed, his golden parachute revoked under the moral turpitude clause. By 2 p.m., Claire was suspended pending investigation into potential conflicts of interest. By market close, Preston Financial had lost 30% of its value as clients pulled their funds. It's like watching a controlled demolition, Tommy said when I got to the construction site. You hit the exact right support beams, and the whole thing just... He made a collapsing gesture with his hands. Boss, that was artwork. The guys on my crew, usually ballbusters of the highest order, were surprisingly supportive. These were men who'd been through divorces, custody battles, cheating wives, financial ruin. They knew pain, and they recognized a man dealing with it. You did right, said Marcus, my senior foreman who'd been through 2 divorces himself. My ex cheated with her personal trainer. Wish I'd had the balls to call her out like that. Instead, I just took it quiet and she got half of everything plus alimony. The video's up to 3 million views, one of the younger guys said, looking at his phone. You're trending on TikTok. They're calling you Revenge King. Get back to work, I told them. But there was no heat in it. Robert Fitzgerald called that afternoon. Walker, I've got 3 more developers who want to meet you. That video, it's everywhere. They figure anyone who can plan and execute something that complex can handle their projects. You're like a tactical genius to these guys. You're joking. Dead serious. You're trending as the strategic divorce guy. Apparently, methodical destruction is a marketable skill. I've got dinner set up Thursday at the Union League with all of them. You in? The Union League? Yeah, ironic, right? Where you got married, where you'll plan your next phase. Full circle. Over the next 3 weeks, Claire tried everything. Texts, calls, emails, handwritten letters. She showed up at job sites until I had security escort her out. She ambushed Matthew at school until the administration banned her from campus. She tried to friend Jessica on every social media platform, only to be blocked repeatedly. Her lawyer, not one of the city's best, she couldn't afford them anymore, pushed for a generous settlement. She's entitled to half the marital assets, he argued in the conference room at Jim's office. She's entitled to what the law says she's entitled to, Jim countered. Given the documented adultery, the dissipation of marital assets on the affair, and the damage to Mr. Walker's business reputation, we're proposing a settlement of $200,000 and no alimony. That's insulting. Mrs. Walker sacrificed her career for the family. Mrs. Walker destroyed her career by sleeping with her boss, on camera, at a charity gala, in front of Philadelphia society. That's not sacrifice, that's stupidity. They went back and forth for hours. In the end, Claire got $200,000, her car, and her personal belongings. The house was mine. Inheritance down payment, deed in my name. The business was mine, predated the marriage. Her earning capacity, once robust, was destroyed by the scandal. No financial firm in Philadelphia would touch her. The Inquirer ran a follow-up story 2 weeks later. The Preston Financial Collapse, a case study in scandal management. William Preston had been forced to sell his mainline estate to pay for his divorce. Margaret took everything she could, and Pennsylvania's equitable distribution laws meant she got a lot. Their Hamptons house, the Palm Beach condo, the art collection, even his membership at the Union League, all went to Margaret. The SEC opened an investigation into whether William's affair with Claire influenced any fiduciary decisions. Had he shown favoritism? Were her promotions earned or given? Were client accounts managed based on merit or relationship? Criminal charges were possible. Claire ended up taking a job at a small financial planning firm in King of Prussia, making a third of her Preston salary. Her apartment in Conshohocken was a far cry from our Society Hill townhouse, a one-bedroom in a complex that advertised luxury, but meant has a gym. William Preston fared even worse. After Margaret cleaned him out and the SEC investigation made him unemployable in finance, he ended up teaching Introduction to Economics at a community college in Cheltenham. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment and driving a 10-year-old Honda. We ran into each other once, 6 months after the gala, at a Wawa in Bala Sinwid. He was buying a microwave dinner and a six-pack of domestic beer, a far cry from Le Bernardin. He saw me, nodded once, and left without a word. What was there to say? I destroyed him as thoroughly as he'd destroyed my marriage. Preston Financial was sold to a New York conglomerate for pennies on the dollar. The building in Center City, that monument to old money and older prejudices, went on the market. I bought it through Walker Construction Management, planning to convert it into affordable housing for city workers, teachers, firefighters, cops, people who actually built things instead of just moving money around. You're literally building on their graves, Tony said when we toured the space. I'm repurposing defunct infrastructure, I corrected. It's environmentally responsible. Sure it is. And that smile on your face is about environmental responsibility. The truth was, there was something poetic about it. The building where Claire had conducted her affair, where William had played his games, would become housing for the kind of people they'd looked down on. The corner office where William had presumably seduced my wife would become a daycare center. The children handled it in their own ways. Jessica threw herself into her studies, switched from international relations to engineering. I want to build things that last, she told me. Real things, not like Mom's career. Matthew became quieter, more focused. His grades improved. He quit lacrosse, too many memories of Claire at games, and took up boxing. I need to hit things, he explained. I understood. I'd been demolishing and rebuilding things for months. They saw their mother once a month, awkward lunches at chain restaurants in King of Prussia, where she'd try to explain, to justify, to make them understand. They were polite but distant, the way you'd be with a stranger who used to be someone you knew. She cries every time, Jessica told me after one lunch. Says we don't understand what it was like being married to someone who didn't share her ambitions. What do you tell her? That Dad's ambition was to build a good life for his family. Her ambition was to build a good life for herself. One of those is worth respecting. The first anniversary of the gala approached like a storm system on weather radar. Philadelphia society was buzzing. Would I attend? Would there be another confrontation? The hospital, caught between gratitude for my donation and fear of drama, sent my invitation with a handwritten note from the development director. We hope you'll join us for what we promise will be an uneventful evening. I decided to go. Not for revenge, not for closure, but because I donated a significant amount to the hospital and I believed in their work. Plus, Fitzgerald had bought a table and insisted I join him. The night of the gala, I put on my own tuxedo. I'd bought one after the divorce, figured I'd earned the right to own good formal wear. Matthew helped me with the cufflinks. You sure you want to do this? He asked. It's just a party. It's the party where you destroyed Mom and her boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend. And they destroyed themselves. I just provided the venue. He grinned, the first real smile I'd seen from him in months. Can I come? You're 17. I'll be 18 in 3 months. Come on, Dad. I promise I'll behave. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We looked good together, the Walker men in formal wear, ready to face Philadelphia society. The convention center had been transformed again, this time with a botanical theme. Living walls of greenery, centerpieces of succulents and air plants, everything sustainable and modern. I recognized half the room, though the dynamics had changed. The Preston financial table was gone, replaced by a tech startup that had taken over their offices. William and Claire were notably absent, their names mud in this circle. Mr. Walker! The development director rushed over, relief visible on her face. Thank you so much for coming. And this must be your son? Matthew, he said, shaking her hand with easy confidence. The resemblance is striking. You have your father's build. And his talent for strategic planning, Matthew added with a perfectly straight face. The woman paled slightly, then laughed nervously. Well? Yes, your table is this way. Fitzgerald's table included 3 other developers and their wives, plus a criminal defense attorney named Sarah Smith, who specialized in white-collar crime and had a laugh like whiskey and smoke. So you're the famous Stephen Walker, she said, offering her hand. I watched that video 20 times. From a legal perspective, it was brilliant. No defamation because everything was true. No invasion of privacy because it occurred in public. Just pure, documented truth delivered with perfect timing. I had good motivation. The best revenge is massive success, they say. Speaking of which, I heard you bought the Preston Financial Building, closing next month, and turning it into affordable housing. That's not revenge. That's poetry. The evening proceeded without drama. I bid on a few items, won a signed Phillies jersey for Matthew, and a weekend at a Poconos resort I'd probably never use. The hospital announced they'd raised $8 million, a record. They also announced the opening of the Walker Family Meditation Garden, funded by my donation from the previous year. The Walker family, Matthew said quietly, even though we're broken. Not broken, I corrected. Reconfigured. Buildings get renovated all the time. Doesn't mean they're not still standing. As we were leaving, I spotted a familiar figure by the valet stand. Claire, thinner than I'd ever seen her, wearing a dress that was trying too hard to look expensive. She was with someone, a man in his 60s, soft around the middle, with the look of recent divorce and desperate loneliness. Our eyes met across the valet area. She started toward us, then saw Matthew beside me and stopped. He took my arm, a gesture of solidarity that wasn't lost on her. She turned away, getting into a Toyota Camry, a far cry from her Lexus, which she'd had to sell. Was that Mom? Matthew asked, though he knew it was. Yeah. She looks different. I was going to say desperate. We waited for my truck in silence. The valet, a young guy who looked like he was working his way through college, refused my tip. No way, mister. Walker. You're the guy from the video, right? That was epic, man. My girlfriend's in finance, and she says, what you did changed how firms handle internal relationships. Like there's policies now because of you. I just told the truth. Yeah, but you told it strategically. That's genius. The drive home was quiet. Matthew fiddled with the radio, landing on classic rock, the same station I'd listened to with my father while driving to construction sites as a kid. Dad, do you ever regret it? Going nuclear like that? No. Really? Not even a little? I thought about it, really considered the question. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that your mother made choices that led to it. But the action itself? Some things need to be demolished completely before you can build something better. What are you building now? I don't know yet. But the foundation's solid. 2 years have passed since that November night. Walker Construction Management has grown to 60 employees and 45 million in annual revenue. The airport project led to 3 more major contracts. The Preston Financial Building is now Walker Commons, providing affordable housing to 200 families. There's a waiting list of 500 more. Jessica graduated summa cum laude with an engineering degree and works for a sustainable architecture firm in Philadelphia. She's dating a nice guy named Daniel, who treats her with respect and has no connection to finance whatsoever. Matthew's at Drexel studying architecture with a minor in business. He wants to join the company after graduation, says he wants to build things that matter. His boxing coach says he could go pro if he wanted, but Matthew says he prefers building to breaking. Claire still sends letters to the children monthly. Some get opened, most don't. She remarried last year, the man from the valet stand, a divorced dentist from the main line who needed someone to help him navigate his own post-divorce life. Jessica went to the wedding out of obligation. Matthew and I declined. Jessica said it was sad. A small ceremony at a country club in Chester County, maybe 30 guests. Claire trying to pretend it was what she wanted all along. William Preston left Philadelphia entirely after the SEC investigation resulted in a hefty fine but no criminal charges. Rumor has it he's in Florida, teaching financial literacy at a retirement community. His ex-wife Margaret remarried, a federal judge with old money and new power. She sent me a thank you note last Christmas, said I'd done her a favor by exposing what she'd suspected for years. I dated Sarah Smith, the lawyer from the Gala, for about 6 months. She was brilliant, funny, and had a killer instinct that matched mine. But we both realized we were too damaged from our respective divorces to build something new. We're still friends. She sends me clients. I send her referrals. It works. The truth is, I'm content alone. The house is mine, renovated to my exact specifications. Comfortable furniture, a workshop in the basement, a kitchen built for actual cooking. Bailey and I take long walks along the Schuylkill River Trail. I have dinner with my kids when they're free, poker with the guys on Thursdays, Sundays at Tony and Marie's with the extended family. The video of that night still circulates online. Every few months it goes viral again on some new platform. I've been invited to speak at business schools about crisis management, at law schools about strategic planning. I decline them all. I'm a builder, not a performer. But sometimes, late at night, I watch that video myself. Not out of bitterness or nostalgia, but as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the most important thing you can build is the courage to tear down what's broken. That foundations matter more than facades. That the truth, strategically deployed, is the most powerful tool in any arsenal. The city skyline outside my window is different now. Buildings I helped create reaching toward the sky, each one built on solid ground with quality materials. No shortcuts, no compromises, no hidden weaknesses. That's all you can do, really. Build things right the first time, and when something's too broken to fix, have the courage to demolish it completely and start over. My phone buzzes. Text from Fitzgerald. New project, billion-dollar waterfront development. You in? I text back. Send me the specs. There's always something to build. And now I build it on my terms, with my crews, according to my standards. No compromises, no apologies, no looking back at the rubble of what was. The foundation is solid. The structure is sound. The builder knows his craft. And that's enough. More than enough. It's everything.